When it comes to the playoffs, it is all hands on deck, and on the eve of perhaps the Lions' biggest playoff game, the Lions are getting fantastic injury news. We're going to talk about it in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10-5, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions. And
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in right now. But before we dive in, I just want to say to all my loyal subscribers and fans that are coming back to the show, thank y'all for coming back. Thank y'all for your view, your support, and your patronage. Absolutely means the world to me that I have such loyal subscribers and such loyal fans. And to those that are tuning into my show for the very first time, I just want to say thank y'all for giving my show a shot. Thank y'all for tuning in. But I hope that you also enjoy the show, and more importantly, I hope to gain you all as new subscribers if I've earned and deserved it. And with that being said, to everybody, I just want to say, God bless. I hope you all are having a great day, and let's dive into the show here. So, here's the thing, folks. This playoff game, as most Lions fans and perhaps almost the entire NFL already knows, is the biggest playoff game that the Lions have had in a long, long time. Because if we realistically think about it, like we already know, the Lions haven't had a home playoff game in 30 plus years. They haven't won a division title in 30 plus years. The last time they won a playoff game in general was 32 years ago, and that was when they won the division round matchup against the Cowboys. And realistically, I would say that this game actually is kind of up there with that game, if not the game that they then lost against the Washington Redskins in the conference round. That's because of how big this matchup is, because of the time span that has been since our last game at home, plus on top of that, because of the opponent that we're playing at home, which is the Los Angeles Rams and Matthew Stafford. So again, this is a very, very, very monumental, massive game for the Detroit Lions. Now, as we all know, with every single week that a team plays in the NFL, we get practice reports, we get injury reports. And so far this week, the Lions have released already 2 injury reports or practice reports. We're going to be getting another one today on the 12th. Now, when we take a look at those practice/injury reports, there's been a lot of people on this injury report, but let's be fair and honest here. This injury report is kind of a little bit misleading because most of it is kind of like, hey, you know what? You've got some guys that have got these little dings, these little bumps and bruises that they've picked up, or some of the injuries that these players are dealing with are injuries that they've been having for quite a while, and it's like, listen, hey, they still have the injury, but we're also throwing in rest days with them, which they also have to report. So again, it's not really going to impact the ability of the Lions players to play for the most part. That's at least what I'm seeing from the majority of these practice reports. However, though, let's be fair and honest here. When it comes to these injury reports that the Lions fans are being given, and probably the rest of the NFL is being given, particularly the Rams, there's only 3 players that most fans are concerning themselves with or want to hear anything on. And that's these 3 players: Sam LaPorta, James Houston, Khalif Raymond. Now, I'm going to say this right now. All 3 of those players are players that Lions fans want to specifically hear about. The only one probably that Rams fans want to know about specifically is Sam LaPorta. Now, we're going to get into that in a little bit here, but let's understand something. Regardless of what the Rams feel like, all 3 of these players are players that have big roles for the Detroit Lions. And all of the Lions fans, like I said, they're hoping that all 3 will play for the Lions in their home playoff game. Like I said, their first one in 30 years. But as the question kind of goes when we have these kinds of conversations, and specifically with this one, will they? That's the big question that's drawing on everybody's brain. That's the big question that everybody's wondering. Will they actually be able to play? And so that's what we're going to actually take a look at here, because that's in essence the whole conversation. That's the whole topic for today's episode, is will these guys be able to play? And based upon what I am seeing, that's what we're going to have the conversation. So let's just get down to the nitty-gritty here, and let's actually just talk about some players, well, these players that I'm specifically referring to. The first player we're going to talk about here is James Houston. I know everybody wants to talk about Sam LaPorta, and I know that's the primary thing that most people want to talk about here. But I believe that Sam LaPorta is, well, you guys are going to see exactly what I'm thinking about Sam LaPorta here in a minute. But let's talk about James Houston. The reason why I want to talk about James Houston first is, well, number one, we have not seen James Houston in a damn long time. The last time I think we saw him was in week 2 when we played the Seattle Seahawks. So we have not seen him in a very long time, almost as long as when we had not seen C.D. Deuce, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We were able to see him last week when we played the Vikings. Still have not seen Houston. And when it comes to James Houston, there are many, many, many fans that have been waiting for this potential news break in which, we're going to get told that James Houston is actually going to be activated. And in my honest opinion, I'm going to just say this right now. I fully expect that news is probably going to break here, probably by the end of this week. And here's the reason why I believe that James Houston is going to make his debut this week. And it's actually for a couple of reasons. So let's kind of take a look at this. The first reason why I believe that James Houston is going to debut this week is because let's take a look at the evidence of what we already have about James Houston. Number one, James Houston has actually been participating in drills, or has been participating in exercises on the sidelines while he's been at practice, now actually for about the last 2-3 weeks here. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's doing like practice drills like cutting, doing coverage snaps, doing sprints, doing whatever. That we haven't seen just yet. But what we have seen is that Houston has been pulling sleds, he's been pushing sleds, and what is that showing? What it's showing is that for quite a while at least, is that his ankle has stability and strength in it, and that it has returned. Well, if that's been the case for the last couple of weeks, at that point, now we're at this point to say that his ankle is at a point where he could actually play on it, at least as far as the strength and stability is concerned. But we also know that Dan Campbell and the Lions want to make sure that, in this case quite literally, but also figuratively, that the player has their legs underneath them so that way they're ready to play. Well, that brings me to my second point. For that one, let's talk about the player that was injured in the exact same game that James Houston was injured. That would be C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Well, in C.D. Deuce's game, well, let's think about this. Last week, when he was able to return and play against the Vikings, take a look at that whole week of injury reports prior to it. C.J. Gardner-Johnson practiced the whole week as a full participant in practice before playing and preparing against the Vikings. And then he was cleared and then activated to play in that game. Well, if you take a look at the practice report that was just released yesterday for James Houston, he has been a full participant in practice yesterday, the day before yesterday, and I fully expect he's going to be a full participant in practice on Friday before the game that we play against the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday night. So if you follow the same pattern between these two players of C.D. Deuce's 3 straight full practices last week against the Vikings, and now James Houston's expected full practices 3 times in a row for this game against the Rams, I believe that he should be more than good to go, because at this point it's like, okay, for the last couple of weeks he's been able to perform drills. For the last couple of weeks he's shown that ankle is fine. Now he's being a full participant in practice. At that point it's like, okay, he has shown that he's ready to go. At that point it's now about whether or not Dan Campbell and company feel comfortable putting him out there. But that then brings me to my third point. Let's just be fair and honest here. It's the playoffs. It's all hands on deck. This is a guy who can clearly disrupt the pocket and the passer. Because let's understand something here. You go back to his rookie season in 2022. When he got his shot during the Thanksgiving game until the very end of the season, he was a very, very not, how do I put this? He wasn't used very often. It was very situational in terms of his ability to disrupt the passer. Well, here's the thing. Everybody knows that Matthew Stafford is a pocket passer. If you bring in James Houston and you use him in the same way, at least for the next couple of games, like you did in 2022, I don't see the damn problem with that. It's like, listen, just go out and do what you did in 2022, disrupt the pocket, disrupt the passer, or at the very least, provide another person on the opposite end of the formation, so that way you can help Hutch out and let him do his thing. The whole point is there's no way that this can backfire for the Lions in the sense that, hey, if you just bring him out there as a situational pass rusher, you've now got an extra body that has the ability to bend and get lower than a lot of other people to affect the quarterback, and it should help out the defense being able to make Matthew Stafford more uncomfortable in the pocket. So for me, it's like, listen, if the guy is healthy, if the guy is able to practice the full week, and the guy has shown that he's ready to play, then you put him on the field and you at least use him. And I believe that whether or not Dan Campbell says, well, we're going to be cautious, No. Screw that. This is the playoffs. Your time to be cautious is done. You need to put the guy out on the field so that way he can help the team. So that's why I believe James Houston is going to play. Now, let's take a look at Sam LaPorta. I know, everybody wants to talk about Sam LaPorta. Well, when we talk about Sam LaPorta, the first thing we need to understand is before and when he got injured in that game against the Vikings, you could actually kind of see it, feel it, and even hear it on the broadcast, or if you were actually even in the stadium, the collective energy in that room, in that building, just completely dissipate. And the reason why is because that most, if not all, of Lions fandom held their collective breath because they were fearing that the injury that Sam LaPorta had was a severe injury. They thought, and I'm telling you this right now, I said it so many times on the live stream for that game, they were like, oh, we're afraid that he's tore something. We're afraid he's tore a ligament. I'm like, listen, folks, he hyperextended the knee. And I literally looked at that replay several times. I'm like, listen, he didn't tear anything, because if he had torn something, he would have been a lot more pain, and he would have not been getting up and walking around nearly as easy as he had been. I knew he had hyperextended the knee, and ultimately that was what was happening. That was what happened once we found out later that was the actual report. But that was the problem, is a lot of Lions fans feared that he had suffered a major injury. Thankfully, thank God, he did not. But let's understand something here. At the beginning of this week, Dan Campbell had reported and stated that there was an outside shot that Sam LaPorta could play. Now, I'm going to be honest here. When I heard outside shot, I'm like, okay. I would say outside shot means, for most people on any other week, we're talking about maybe 40%. But again, it's the damn playoffs. If the guy can play, or if it's just a matter of pain tolerance, he's going to most likely play. Like, it would literally take Sam LaPorta not being able to play or being able to walk around on his knee to pretty much say, yeah, he's not going to play. If Dan Campbell is saying there's an outside shot, forget it being below 50%. Chances are it's going to be more like a 75 to 80% chance he's going to play. It's just going to be a matter of, can Sam LaPorta tolerate the pain? And for me, it's like, listen, with it being a pain tolerance matter, you then have to take a look at what's been happening the last couple of days. Again, the very next time we heard from Dan Campbell after that, he said, okay, we're going to know what's going to happen in the next 48 hours. He said it's going to take the next 48 hours to realistically see where Sam LaPorta is at. Well, what have we been hearing? What we've been hearing is that Sam LaPorta, even though he's listed as a non-participant in practice, he's actually getting reps in practice. He's getting throws from Jared Goff during or after practice. He's been running routes. He's been doing blocking drills just like he normally would to test the strength of that knee. And from what we're hearing from Sam LaPorta, the knee is just fine. He says that he is, and I quote, optimistic that he's going to play. So it's like, okay here. If Dan Campbell says that there's an outside shot, which again, during the playoffs means a lot more than what most people are probably thinking, and the fact that he's actually doing drills, he's not just sitting on the sideline just getting rehab, he's actually doing drills and catching passes, and he says he's optimistic to play, I would say at this point that means Sam LaPorta is more than likely going to play, which is absolutely fantastic news, like I'm saying for my title, just like the same thing is with James Houston for Lions fans, because it's like, listen, we're going to be getting two very, very big pieces back for this game on Sunday against the Rams. Now, I know the other injury that a lot of people are kind of wondering about is Khalif Raymond. This is the only injury news that I wouldn't consider fantastic because there's still not a whole lot that's known about Khalif Raymond. His status is very, very much still in the air because very little information in regards to whether or not he's going to be ready to play on Sunday has even been released. All we know about Khalif Raymond is that his injury was pretty much the exact same of some type of variety as Sam LaPorta's, but we have not really heard anything else about him or how his injury is coming up. Really, all we know is he's been a non-participant in practice the last 2 days. Now, is it possible that just because nobody's asked about Khalif Raymond in comparison to Sam LaPorta, maybe he's on the same path, maybe he's on the same area as Sam LaPorta? I don't know. But all I do know is that based on what information has been brought forward, which has been very little, it doesn't look likely that he's going to play, which then begs the question, who takes over for his punt returning duties, which we've heard reports that the Lions are testing every single potential option on who could potentially take over for his duties. They've even taken a look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know some Lions fans are saying, why not put out Donovan Peoples-Jones? We've also got J-Mo. There's a bunch of other guys that the Lions could potentially use for punt return duties. So we're going to have to see what the Lions do. If Raymond's able to go, they'll definitely use him. But if he's not, who do they go with? They have stated their options. We're just going to have to see what happens here. But the way I look at it is, okay, you're definitely, in my opinion, going to be getting Sam LaPorta back, and you're definitely, in my opinion, going to be getting James Houston back. Again, I know it's not been reported that way, but it's like, listen, if you just use common sense and you understand the narrative of this is a playoff game, you play if you can tolerate the pain, or you play the player even if you don't feel that that player is in your eyes 100%. It's like, listen, if the player can play, if he's healthy, if he's been practicing the whole week, or he says that he's optimistic to play, and again, I'm trying to provide both narratives for both players, that's going to mean that they're going to likely play. Which also means that the Lions' odds of victory go that much better up because you're bringing back a weapon for both sides of the football. You're bringing back a much-needed pass rush element for the freaking defensive side of the ball, which is going to help that out. And you're ensuring that a key offensive weapon that you thought might not be able to play this week is going to play and is going to add that element back to the offense. So again, what this means to me is fantastic news because on the eve of, like I said, the Lions' biggest game in the last 30 years, the Lions are getting fantastic injury news, which means that these players should, and in my opinion, will play the game. But that's all there really is to this whole thing because, again, when we're talking about injuries, we're just trying to figure out whether or not the player is going to play. And based upon everything that's been out about these two players, James Houston and Sam LaPorta, I 100% expect that they're going to play. In fact, I would be shocked if they did not play. But having said that, I think I've pretty much explained everything to the best of my ability, best of my reasoning and logic, so I'm just going to say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to do one of these three things, or hell, all three of them. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and have not had a chance to do so, again, please, 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 I encourage you all to subscribe. It really helps me out, and we've been doing so well in that department. But I also want to encourage all this. After you subscribe to the channel, please make sure you turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, I'm so thankful for all the subscriptions, and the subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure you turn on that notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. To help in that endeavor, I also encourage y'all to please share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we share it, the bigger the channel spreads, the better the channel does, and the more it grows. And I'm ever so thankful for every share as well as every subscription. And with that being said, to everybody, I just want to say thank you all for watching the content. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope to have made you a subscriber if I hadn't in the past. And if I still haven't earned you as a subscriber, hopefully you'll come back and I'll get another chance to do so in the future. But until that time, I just want to say God bless. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.